minds over Ferrari's pre-season testing performance, throwing around accusations that the team cheated in Bahrain. Yep, you heard that right. The logic here seems to be that since Ferrari actually looked competitive, they must have done something illegal. Because, of course, it's absolutely unthinkable that they might have just designed a fast car. Right? This is nothing more than bitterness from people who can't accept that Carlos Sainz is out and Lewis Hamilton is in. It's as if they can't process the idea that Ferrari made a strategic decision to sign a 7-time world champion, and instead of acknowledging reality, they're spinning conspiracy theories about irregularities in testing. It's pathetic, but let's debunk this nonsense properly. First off, if Ferrari had actually been doing anything remotely illegal, the FIA would have been all over them. This is the same organization that fined Red Bull for exceeding the budget cap because of a catering bill. If Ferrari was breaking the rules, they'd have been slapped with penalties before the session even ended. Yet, nothing happened. Because, shocker, they didn't do anything wrong. And let's talk about Ferrari's actual performance. If they were supposedly cheating, why did they still have serious tire degradation problems? Why did Hamilton have to abandon a planned race simulation on the third day? That doesn't sound like a team that's hiding extra pace. It sounds like a team that still has work to do. But no, some people would rather believe that Ferrari found some magical loophole that only Spanish journalists have managed to uncover. Then there's McLaren. If we're questioning unexpected improvements, why isn't anyone side-eyeing McLaren's massive step forward? Their pace looks seriously competitive, yet somehow, nobody is calling that suspicious. Funny how that works, isn't it? But Ferrari posts good lap times, and suddenly, they're the villains of Formula One. It's almost as if the agenda here isn't about fairness, it's about pushing a narrative that suits certain people. This whole thing boils down to Hamilton's presence at Ferrari. If the SF25 had been driven by Sainz and Leclerc and put in the same lap times, these same journalists would be hailing it as an incredible job by the Scuderia. But because it's Hamilton behind the wheel, suddenly it's how did they get so fast? This is suspicious. It's ridiculous. The man has been fighting an unstable Mercedes for 2 seasons. Give him a stable car, and of course, he's going to look quick. That's what happens when you put one of the greatest drivers of all time in a machine that actually works. And let's be clear, Ferrari isn't even the favorite yet. They look strong, yes, but McLaren seems to have the most well-rounded package, and Red Bull, even with some balance issues, is still a threat. So this entire accusation isn't just nonsense. It's nonsense that doesn't even make sense. Hamilton himself has been cautious with his expectations, acknowledging that while the SF25 feels good, there's still work to do. He's been focused on learning Ferrari's way of working, adapting to new systems, and refining his communication with his engineers. This isn't a man who suddenly discovered illegal performance gains. This is a veteran driver putting in the work to integrate into a new team. And as for Leclerc, he's also shown strong pace, proving that Ferrari's speed isn't coming from any shady business. Both drivers are pushing each other, and that's exactly what a top team should have. The worst part of all this is that it's a distraction from what actually matters. The 2025 season is shaping up to be one of the most competitive in years. McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull all look like genuine contenders. Mercedes could still have something up their sleeve. There's real excitement about an actual title fight. Yet some people are wasting time trying to tear down Ferrari before the first race even happens. This isn't about fairness. This isn't about real concerns. This is about people who are upset that Hamilton and Ferrari might actually be a winning combination. Instead of accepting that, they'd rather throw baseless accusations to muddy the waters. It's predictable, it's pathetic, and it won't change the fact that Ferrari is back in the game. And here's where things get even more ridiculous. These so-called journalists who are so desperate to discredit Ferrari aren't even consistent with their own accusations. One minute, they're saying Ferrari found some illegal performance boost, and the next, they're pointing out how Hamilton struggled with tire degradation and had to cut short a race simulation. Which one is it? Either Ferrari built an absolute rocket, or they're still working out the kinks, but it can't be both. And let's not forget, if there was even a whiff of something illegal, Red Bull and Mercedes would have been screaming about it already. Christian Horner would have held an emergency press conference with his classic smug grin. Toto Wolff would have been firing off cryptic one-liners about the integrity of the sport, and Helmut Marko would have called Ferrari's entire operation a joke. Instead, silence, because there's nothing to investigate. It's also worth mentioning that Ferrari has already been under the FIA's microscope for years. Remember the 2019 engine saga? That whole thing led to a private settlement and some of the biggest performance losses Ferrari has ever suffered. If the FIA was willing to come down hard on Ferrari then, why would they suddenly turn a blind eye now? There's no logic behind these accusations, just bitterness and bias. And speaking of bias, let's talk about the real reason this nonsense is being pushed so aggressively: Carlos Sainz. The Spanish media can't handle the fact that Ferrari chose to move on from Sainz and bring in Hamilton. They need a villain, so they're trying to paint Ferrari as corrupt and Hamilton as some kind of undeserving beneficiary of foul play. Never mind the fact that Sainz himself has been nothing but professional about the situation. He's focused on his own future, looking for the best possible seat for 2026, and handling everything with class. Yet, these journalists are out here trying to start a war, acting like Ferrari personally wronged them by making a strategic decision for their team's future. What's even funnier is that Sainz wasn't Ferrari's first choice for a long-term project. The team has been building towards this Hamilton-Leclerc pairing for a while. Ferrari wants the best of both worlds: an experienced legend who knows how to win championships and a young talent who can carry the team forward for years to come. That's not some grand conspiracy, that's just smart team management. And let's not pretend Ferrari is suddenly the enemy of fairness in F1. This is a sport where Red Bull dominated an entire season so badly that people stopped watching halfway through. Where Mercedes ran one of the most dominant streaks in history with an engine that was miles ahead of everyone else. Where teams have bent and twisted the rules in ways that made the FIA scratch their heads. But now, because Ferrari finally looks competitive again, suddenly we need an investigation? Give me a break. Hamilton has done what any great driver would do in his situation. He's come in, he's worked hard, and he's made an immediate impact. He's helping Ferrari refine their car, bringing his experience from Mercedes, and adapting to a completely different team culture. That's not cheating. That's just being one of the best to ever do it. And let's be honest, if anyone else was in Hamilton's position, if it were, say, George Russell moving to Ferrari and putting in strong lap times, these same people would be praising it as an incredible achievement. But because it's Hamilton, and because some people still can't accept that he's more than just a lucky driver in a dominant car, we're getting all these ridiculous accusations. At the end of the day, this is all noise. The real test will be in Melbourne. If Ferrari shows up and delivers, expect even more desperate attempts to discredit them. If they struggle, those same people will act like they knew it all along. Either way, the only thing that matters is what happens on track. So let's stop with the nonsense and focus on what actually matters. 2025 is shaping up to be one of the most competitive seasons in years. We've got Ferrari looking strong, McLaren making massive strides, Red Bull facing new challenges, and Mercedes lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce. This is the kind of season F1 fans have been begging for, and instead of celebrating it, some people are too busy trying to create controversy out of nothing. It's time to move on. Ferrari is fast. Hamilton is adapting. The battle for the championship is about to be insane. And no amount of fake scandals from salty journalists is going to change that. At the end of the day, all of this so-called controversy around Ferrari and Hamilton is nothing more than a desperate attempt to create drama where there is none. The Spanish media, still bitter over Carlos Sainz's departure, has decided to push a narrative that Ferrari is cheating, without a shred of actual evidence. They want to make it seem like Ferrari has somehow pulled off an illegal masterstroke just to justify why Hamilton and Leclerc are looking competitive in testing. But the facts simply don't support their claims. If Ferrari had really done something illegal, Red Bull and Mercedes would have been the first to sound the alarm. Horner would have been crying to the FIA, Wolff would be dropping cryptic warnings about the sanctity of the sport, and Marko would have accused Ferrari of building a spaceship disguised as a Formula One car. Instead, silence, because there is absolutely nothing to investigate. Ferrari is simply fast. And let's not ignore the hypocrisy here. These same journalists had no problem when Red Bull was dominating for the last 2 seasons. They had no complaints when Mercedes built an engine in 2014 that left everyone in the dust for 8 straight years. But now, When Ferrari finally seems like a real contender again, suddenly there's outrage. Give me a break. This entire scandal is nothing more than a sad attempt to discredit Hamilton's move to Ferrari. The idea that Ferrari would need to cheat just because Hamilton is driving for them is laughable. He's a 7-time world champion. He knows exactly how to extract performance from a car, how to work with engineers, and how to make a team stronger. That's not illegal. That's called being one of the greatest drivers of all time. What really bothers these journalists isn't Ferrari's performance. It's that Hamilton is proving them wrong. They wanted to believe he was washed up, that he had lost his edge, that he was only great because of Mercedes. But now, after just a few days in the SF25, he's already showing his class. He's adapting, improving, and pushing the team forward. And that's terrifying for his critics. And let's talk about Leclerc for a second. The guy is driving better than ever. He topped the timing sheets on multiple occasions, showed incredible consistency, and proved that Ferrari now has 2 legitimate title contenders. But instead of celebrating the fact that Ferrari finally has a car that might challenge Red Bull and McLaren, the media wants to drag them down with nonsense. The reality is this: Ferrari is not cheating. Hamilton is not some undeserving beneficiary of a rigged system. And the only reason people are making these accusations is because they can't handle the idea that Ferrari might actually be back in the fight. But none of this matters once the season starts. The lights will go out in Australia, and the only thing that will speak is performance. If Ferrari is genuinely competitive, expect even more desperate attempts to discredit them. If they struggle, the same critics will act like they saw it coming. Either way, the real battle will be fought on the track, not in the headlines of bitter journalists. So let's put all this nonsense to rest. Ferrari is fast, Hamilton is adapting, and the 2025 season is shaping up to be an all-out war between the top teams. Whether you support Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, or Mercedes, one thing is clear: this season is going to be unforgettable. Now, what do you think? Is this just another case of salty media trying to tear down Ferrari and Hamilton? Or do you believe there's actually something to worry about? Let's discuss. And if you want to see why McLaren